and today you're here with me, Christina, at KitGuru, and we are looking at the 3 items from TecWare: the Q5 gaming headset at $54.99, the EXO Elite Gaming Mouse at $54.99, and the Phantom Mechanical Keyboard at $59.99. Whilst you're here, click that sub and like button for me, would ya? Thanks. So inside the boxes, you get a spare set of glide pads for the mouse and a detachable mic for the headset. And surprisingly, you also get 4 spare OSMO brown switches, which are the same as the rest of the board, as well as a switch and a keycap puller, but more on the switches later. Looking at all these items together, there is a running theme with the blackout colorway running across all 3 items. The cable on each item is different though. The keyboard one is really a smooth braid with a flexible wire and really quite pleasing. The headset has a slightly rougher braid and it has the same amount of flex but is slightly thinner. The mouse has a shoelace type braid and it's a little stiffer. All cables end in a USB-A. To be honest, my first impressions are pretty good and I'm impressed by all the details on all of the devices. For instance, on the headset we have some really nice metal grills on the cups with the TecWare logo inside, which appears white when off, but when lit up it changes colour with the RGB setting. There is a mattified plastic that runs all the way around the headset. The head strap is a nice quality pleather with a pretty thick cushion. Moving down, we have the adjustable rails that are metal and very smooth. It is a shame though that there are no indicators, as you can obviously not really go back to your favourite position very easily. Say if someone tried it on, for instance. The cups also have a good bit of cushion in here, which is a soft memory foam, and you can really see how slowly it regains its shape. The cups are also really good at keeping sound out, which is obviously a nice bonus. The mic appears to be really well made too, with a nice thick bendable metal arm and a keyed connection. The one thing that is a little chunky here is the control box. The mic on off switch feels a little bit loose and there is a little bit of a wiggle room on it as well, but it seems to work fine and the volume wheel is incrementless, so you can get just the exact amount of volume that you want or require without being restricted to certain increments. However, it is easy to accidentally rub the volume wheel and it is pretty loose, so you can sort of go up and down by accident. Some spec features I would like to point out though on the headset is that it is 7.1 virtual surround, as well as having software available. We'll go into that a little bit later. The build quality appears to be really good, however, but if you twist the headset, there is a rather disconcerting crack. Here's that sound for you. Other than that though, everything else seems pretty tough. Just before we move on, without downloading the software on a plug and play basis, the headset has quite a flat profile, but I would say that the mids and highs take precedence over any kind of bass whilst listening to music. We will see later if this is changed in the software. Lastly, here is a mic test for you. So this is me testing the Q5 headset microphone, roughly about a 3 fingers distance away from my mouth without any software. So this is just plug and play. So I'm going to do some pa 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 and ba ba ba, and I'm going to talk loudly and I'm going to talk quite softly and I'm going to talk normally. So there we go. And lastly, here's some background noise. So I'm absolutely blown away by the mic quality here, and especially considering that price. Okay, so moving on to the mouse now. This is a lightweight mouse at 69 grams and it feels like a satin finish to that honeycomb style plastic body. There are some gloss accents on the DPI button, on the mouse wheel inlay and on those side buttons. The mouse wheel is very low resistance and very slight increments, which can make accuracy a little difficult, I found. There is a really vibrant band of RGB running around the bottom of the device, and also you can see that RGB coming through the honeycomb body to expose that TecWare logo. This is linked to the mouse wheel's RGB though, and these only display a solid colour of the current DPI setting that you're on, not the RGB preset that you can see along the bottom line here. More on this later. Underneath we have the Pixart 3389 sensor and the lift-off distance, which can be set between 2 and 3 millimeters. I did a lift-off distance test by placing the disc at either end of the mouse to leave the sensor exposed to the underneath mouse mat, And on the lowest setting, it wouldn't even read on 1 disk height. On the highest setting, the sensor could read at a 1 disk height but stop reading at 2. So a really low reading here. Under here, you also have those white glide pads, which you get spares of in the box. Rigidity wise, there is no flex when squeezing or pushing down the sides, and the 20 million click lifespan Huano Blue switches give off a really satisfying left and right click. The side buttons also have just as nice of a click too, which is a big thumbs up from me, as companies normally skimp out here. Here is a sound test for you. Next up, we have the Phantom 10 keyless keyboard. Again, that blackout design looks really nice. And the only thing I think that lets the aesthetics down here initially is those ABS keys. They instantly seem to get a shine to them over time, and they are going to wear. Considering the price though, are ABS keycaps understandable? I'd probably say so. Of course, you can remove these keycaps and replace them, but that is extra time and money. Moving on to the bottom is where you can see the keycap puller if you need it, and also we have 4 large non-slip pads, some handy cable routing options, and the flip out feet. The flip out feet only have 1 level of extension, but they do have some rubber on there too, which really does help with that slippage. It's really sturdy, and you would struggle to get any kind of skid from it anyway, because the grip is really intense and it works really well on my mouse mat. Flex wise, there is hardly anything. You have to push down really hard for just a tiny amount of movement, so overall the build quality is pretty good. Ultimo brown switches are used here as mentioned earlier, and they do have a slight bump but no audible click. So they're not linear, which I can deal with, but I still prefer my own optical mechanical switches for a clickier experience. You can, however, change the switches as they are hot swappable, but you can only swap them for other Ultimo switches. These switches though are a bit heavier in terms of the click force in my opinion. Here is a sound test. There is also full N-key rollover and a 1000Hz polling rate, if you were wondering. Gaming wise, I found this a really nice piece of kit, and my gaming certainly didn't suffer. I do miss the number pad, but that's my only gripe with this keyboard, to be honest, and of course that is my personal preference. So I went to download the software, and it really baffled me as to why there is separate software for each device. So okay, it was a little annoying, but let's see what this software does and if it can be forgiven for my small inconvenience. On the headset software, you can see you have a 5-channel equalizer, and I can confirm it's not just there for show. It really does make a difference to the sound, and you can customize it to your heart's content to really get that sound that you would like to hear. I personally set the 5 channels a little bit higher than what it came with the bass being a little bit higher than the rest of them. It seemed to give more volume, and it really brought out the bass too. But this is the default position on the custom profile, which you can see here. It's basically just flat, ready for you to change it to whatever you want. In gaming, it's also made a huge difference, as the profile was a little bit flat to start with, and with a bit of tuning, I could get it just where I wanted for any type of gameplay. There are presets, however, if you don't feel like fiddling around too much, and they're pretty good, but I did find that with my own settings I could get a much better sound out of it. You can also add effects to the sound here, such as reverb and stuff like that. You can also change the gain of the mic here if you wish. As well, you have your digital 7.1 settings, and lastly, you've got your color options and presets, as well as the chance to change the colors in the multi-breathing preset. I would say that this headset, sound-wise especially, is sitting in the right place at the price range, as they do kind of remind me a little bit of the Cooler Master series of headsets, such as the MH630 for instance. But you aren't getting the same level of quality you would see from maybe a higher priced headset, such as let's say the Corsair HS70 for instance. And it really is worth paying that extra 30-40 quid in my opinion if you can afford it. The software for the mouse is also pretty simple. You can see that you can reprogram the buttons or add macros. You can create up to 3 profiles here. There is also customizable DPI stages and a handy X and Y slider so that you can really make this experience your own, as well as add in a color of your choice to each setting. Underneath we have the lighting, which you can choose from the drop down of presets, and also the speed and direction. Next we have some more mouse settings where you can change the sensitivity of your mouse cursor, as well as the lift off distance, which can obviously be changed on the fly with the button underneath the mouse too if need be. Next we have the polling rate, which goes from 100Hz to 1000Hz, and then you have your debounce time too. Next we have the Phantom software. Here you can select individual keys and set key macros or function assignments. At the bottom you can also change the polling rate where it says USB report rate, and you can create up to 3 profiles in the top right. If we click on the LED editing mode enabled, we can change the lighting effects. You have a list of presets or a custom option, as well as brightness, speed and direction, etc. In conclusion, I think that considering the price of each individual item, you are really getting your money's worth. The Phantom keyboard has great build quality, looks great and has reasonable specs. The EXO Elite mouse is nice and lightweight with some really clicky, satisfying switches, and again a good level of rigidity, and it looks nice as well. They do hold up well for the price against the competition too, but paying that extra 30 or 40 quid if you can afford it, I would say is really worth it. The Q5 headset is the best piece out of all these three, and that is because it has all the looks and features, but it's also comfortable, and that mic is crystal clear. What do you think of these 3 items from TecWare? Will you be buying them? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to hit that like and sub button, check out our merch and our website for daily tech news. Thanks for sticking around with me, Christina. I'll see you next time on KitGuru.